But you guys know that I studied for the priesthood for a while, right?
Oh, wow. Didn't know that. Didn't know that.
Hey, we're having
Welcome
too much
back,
fun back
ladies.
here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is the Hi-Fi Summit, day 1, quarter 4, 2020. Right now, we're back with Joe Finn from Parasound with, of course, Mike and Joe. How's everybody doing?
Oh, we're doing
Great,
well.
man.
Good. What an
Always
honor
a good
to be.
time.
Yeah, what an honor to be on your show again. This is awesome.
We have too much fun, Joe. When you're on here, too much. I don't know that we can talk about what we were talking about backstage. So.
Oh,
Probably
please
not.
don't.
But honestly, that's a big part of the reason why I love doing this, because I mean, just in an overall sense, what you guys are doing is awesome. But the fact that you have fun doing it, and you keep it casual, and you just want to try to get all your customers the information and everything. I mean, it's not just that you're doing it, which is great, but the way you're doing it, that's really so much fun for me.
Thanks.
Got a lot of love for you over here. True Voice of Reason saying, Joe, you coming in from Maryland?
You bet, True Voice of Reason.
Let's do it. Rick's here.
Rick Thrasher, great to have you again, Joe. The legendary Brown Note. We got some Van Halen fans on here. We're talking about turning knobs.
Yeah, man. So what are we talking about today?
Hey, today we're going to talk a little bit about upgrades to a home theater. Everybody's interested in that, right?
I like upgrades, Joe.
Everybody's interested in upgrading their home theater, especially if it's not too complicated of a topic. And so what we're going to talk a little bit about today is upgrades.
Nice.
And specifically with Parasound. So let me just click my little PowerPoint here. Are you guys able to see that now?
Yep. Okay. You're good to go.
All right. So if I go ahead, Michael.
If you hit play from the beginning, then it'll just go full screen for them.
Okay, perfect. So you seeing it just fine?
Yep. Everything's good.
You're hearing me just fine.
Yep. You're good to go.
Woohoo! Okay. So listen, everybody that's attending the Hi-Fi Summit, I'm so glad that you guys are along, and I really do get a big kick out of doing this because Joe and Michael and Shauna are such nice guys, and just the fact that they're able to connect us, the manufacturers, with you guys in a way that we can both talk to you live here today, and then it can be archived. And if one of your friends has thought it was kind of interesting, you can send them to the YouTube video right after so they can check it out. I just love it. What we're going to talk about today, obviously, are home theater upgrades, and specifically, of course, from a Parasound perspective, how we can help you guys in that, and what are some of the various options if you choose Parasound. But if you choose somebody else for home theater upgrades, that's fine too. In fact, I have a slide dedicated to 3 upgrades that I think you'll really enjoy that are not amplifier upgrades. They're something else. So, because in the end of the day, if you're going to upgrade something, you want it to be immediately and clearly audible to you, or visually, apparent to you. You don't want to make an upgrade and think, I guess it sounds better, So we'll talk about upgrades in general. I've got a couple slides right at the beginning, just talking about Parasound, who we are, and why some of the things we do and have done for the last 4 decades are so well received. And then we'll dig in kind of more in the second half of my presentation into the specifics about adding more power to a good quality AV receiver. So that sound good to you 3?
Sounds good. And I know part of your presentation, he's gonna kind of pause and give a chance to answer some questions. So if you guys either want to hang on to your questions until we get to that section, and that'll make it easier to kind of address to them, maybe write it down so you don't forget. So, but we will have definitely some time for answering questions.
Thank you, Michael. And if you get a question coming in and you think it's pertinent to the slide, and you want me to just address it right then, you can do that too.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Flexible.
Flexible's good. Well, I thought a nice way to start would be just to talk about a couple of my favorite movies, because, as home theater fans, which I take it that 90% or more of the people on this call are home theater fans, probably the some 2-channel guys, but, I would think it'd be more a home theater audience today. I just wanted to share with you a couple of my favorite movies, because we all tend, I've got this picture of Iron Man kind of right in the middle here, right? We all tend to kind of gravitate towards the movies that have really spectacular things going on that can show off all the technology we've invested in a home theater. But I just wanted to share a couple of movies that I've watched over and over. This one on the left, Casablanca, is my single favorite movie. It was filmed in 1942, obviously in the midst of World War II era, and it doesn't have any of the really cool audio things that you would get in a modern movie. But it is such a well done production that if you haven't seen it, not only do you want to grab it, but if you borrow it from a friend or rent it from the library or something, try to do that on a weekend where you could watch it a couple of times before you've got to give it back, because I've probably seen Casablanca a dozen times, and every time I watch it, I see something additional. One of the key lines in that movie is Claude Rains saying, "Round up the usual suspects." And this movie over on the right is one that was filmed in the 90s, called The Usual Suspects.
Is that Casablanca, Joe? Is that one in Dolby Vision and HDR? Dolby Atmos?
I don't know if this one's out in Dolby Atmos as yet, honestly.
No. I think he was just joking. He was just messing with you.
Well, Usual Suspects would actually, it does have some big explosion scenes and so forth in it, so it would sound really cool. I don't know if anybody would ever bother to upgrade Casablanca's audio, but Usual Suspects was made recently enough that it's got some very cool audio stuff. But this is another one where I just love movies where halfway through you're thinking, wait, where is this going? And you really want to know where it's going,
It's a barbershop quartet out in Skokie, Illinois. That's what it's going.
Right? Outstanding. Actually, it's hilarious you mentioned that, because that, of course, is a line from the movie. But Richard Schramm grew up literally right near Skokie, because I'm from Chicago. Oh, yeah. I'm from the Chicago area. Richard started his audio career in Evanston, Illinois, which is like, a hop, skip, and a jump from Skokie. So, literally just a couple of suburbs. Evanston's right by the lake.
Out of all of the lines I know from that movie, I picked the one. That's the one I picked. That's
all right.
I see a lot of integrity going on in this photo here, Joe.
You betcha. So this is just for all the folks who are attending today's little session. This is Richard Schramm on the left, the guy who founded Parasound back in '81. On the right is John Curl. So any of the Halo products that we have all have John's design heritage in it. But specifically, if you see something, like the JC1 Plus that we first started shipping earlier this year, that's really from the brain of John, kind of working a little bit with our staff. But really from the beginning, we've made electronics, and value engineering is what we're all about. So we don't make the least expensive electronics in the marketplace. We don't make the most expensive, highest end, spend $250,000. We don't have a product like that. But what we want to do are listen to those really, really high end products and come as close as we possibly can in performance without putting that great big price tag on it. So just a couple tidbits about Parasound. Mr. Curl over here on the right, he's actually in the Absolute Sound Hall of Fame. I didn't realize the Absolute Sound had a Hall of Fame, but he's in it. That's how well respected of a designer he is. All the products are designed and engineered in San Francisco, which is where Richard founded Parasound back in 1981, and they're built with decades-long vendor partners. One of the questions that we get at Parasound a lot is, well, do you build all your product in the USA? Which some of our competitors do, of course, and actually we don't. But what some of our other competitors do is they really just go to a shop somewhere in Asia or a series of shops and say, this is what we need. Can you engineer it? Can you build it? And then they pick the lowest bidder. And that's not where we're at all. What we want to do is what I like to think of as great design with efficient manufacturing. So we have 3 vendor partners in Taiwan that we've been building with literally for decades. The problem, of course, is if you just take a design to somebody in Asia and shop it around to 12 guys and pick the lowest bidder, is how do you maintain a consistent quality control if you do that? And, this for us is a formula that really works. We do all the design work, and then these trusted partners of ours build it. Here's the JC5 that we released a couple of years ago, and Soundstage in their review said, this thing's worth every penny. It's a $6,000 stereo 2-channel amplifier. It's worth every penny. I can't recommend the JC5 highly enough. Home theater review. It's a stunning amplifier. So this kind of formula that Richard worked out of design it here in the US and build it with trusted partners really seems to, work well for us. So And this is, I was just joking a little bit with Michael earlier on, because this morning I was watching Michael's YouTube review of this A52 amplifier. Sound and Vision, when they looked at it, said intense dynamic contrast literally caused me to sit up straight on my couch. So yeah, this idea of how we do it, really designed to the highest standard we possibly can, and then build it, as cost effectively as we can, while still maintaining the quality control. That's really what we want to do. And we get these kinds of reviews just all the time. This one is the A31, which we're going to delve into a little bit deeper, when we get a little further into today's presentation. But a joy to listen to. You look at the power output and the rock solid build quality. It's the real deal. That was Sound and Vision from 2018. So, and obviously the A31, this is a 3-channel amp, and we'll talk a little bit about the options that you, the attendee to today's presentation, some of the various options for mixing and matching, because home theater, when it first kind of was birthed, that meant 5 channels, and then it meant 5 or 7, and then 5 or 7 or 9, and now, I
32.
I think you can go up to Google Phonic, right?
Yeah.
That's the last number before infinity.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And China will come and help you hook them all up. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk amplifiers just a little bit. I've got, I think, 3 or maybe 4 slides just kind of devoted to some of the specific things that we do in an amplifier, because obviously we are building a little bit to an upscale level of quality. You can buy lesser expensive amplifiers than ours. So I want to just try to share some of the things we try to do in all of our amplifiers, and specifically, of course, in all of our Halo amplifiers. We'll take 3 or 4 slides to deal with that, and then we'll back it up, and we'll see what questions have come up from the audience. So kind of this idea that we have is we always want to give solid state reliability with Class A type sound. And, for us, we don't build any tube amplifiers. We think tube amplifiers are wonderful. A number of our competitors build tube amps, and probably a significant number of people on this call like listening to their tube amp at home. But tube amps require, in plain English, more attention, if you will, than what a solid state design would require. So we want that solid state reliability, but let's get as much of the Class A sound there as we possibly can. So when you're listening to any of our amplifiers, this is actually an A21 Plus, which is our $3,000 2-channel amplifier. The low-level signals are all amplified in Class A, same as they would be in a tube amplifier. And yet, if you now have the big crescendo, the big car crash scene, or the explosions or whatever in a home theater, or if you're listening to music, all of a sudden the drummer and the keyboard player and the bassist are all just kind of thundering in at once. When you get that big surge where you need a lot of power, you would have to have a really physically large tube amplifier that would be generating a lot of heat, to be able to do it. So a Class AB amplifier, which is what we typically build, we do have some Class D designs, but we're typically doing Class AB. We feel it gives you the best of both worlds, because up to a certain level, it's all in Class A. Then when you really need the power, because the signal is large, at that point, the distortion components tend to be relatively low. So you get a very non-fatiguing, low distortion kind of a sound, which is, very efficient, again, versus a pure Class A, pure tube amplifier that you might invest in. But you can start to see now some of the things that we're doing in here. We always use a huge toroid, and you'll see this over and over again in some of the amps I'm about to show you. The toroid is where you get that ability to supply big power all at once. We use typically pretty large capacitors, and when you get that instantaneous draw, that leading edge of a musical note, if you've got big capacitors, you can give that in a way that you can't if you don't have the really adequate power supplies and so forth. And then all these output devices, all connected to great big heat sinks. Even though this is a solid state amp, it's going to generate a certain amount of heat. So you got to be able to get rid of that. So to kind of sum this up, what we think are the 3 characteristics of a better amplifier, and again, that phrase, the solid state reliability with the Class A sound. We think reliability and build quality is the most important thing if you're going to invest more money in an amplifier, because you, by definition, spent more money you really want that thing to last a long, long, long time. Richard always says, I don't know how long Parasound amps last because we keep getting emails and phone calls from people with 20 and 30-year-old Parasound gear wondering if we still have a part that they might need for their amplifier. Then the second thing is performance when driving difficult loads. I think one of the most confusing things to consumers who are thinking about upgrading, you look at this amplifier and it's rated at 100 watts per channel into an 8 ohm load, and that one's rated at 100 watts per channel into an 8 ohm load, but this one's more expensive. Well, why would that be? Well, remember that nobody ever listens to an 8 ohm load resistor. That's not what guys like you and I do. We buy our favorite speaker systems and we hook up the amplifier to that. So the speaker system is always presenting this kind of constantly changing impedance curve to the amplifier. There is no 8 ohm load resistor that's always at 8 ohms at that point. So, being able to have good performance when driving a difficult load and kind of going right along with that, the ability to deliver a lot of current when it's needed, that's really one of the two characteristics sonically, after the reliability and build quality that we always shoot for. So I love this quote that we got from one of our consumers last year. He said, A21 Plus transformed my speakers, made them sound better than I've ever heard them sound. And I would say to, again, all of you on the call, that if you haven't tried your home theater receiver with an upgraded amplifier scheme, either from Parasound or somebody else, you may be amazed at how good the speakers you've purchased, at how good they can really sound.
Definitely,
yeah. Yeah. So one or two more that talks a little bit about why our amplifiers sound like they do. So this is just, having a nice big close-up so we could talk again about some of the specifics. This item, this round-ish item on the right with the sort of reddish color to it, that's, again, the power transformer that's sort of the core of being able to supply current to both channels at the same time. That's another little difference with us too, by the way. We always rate our amplifiers all channels driven. Sometimes people will rate with one channel driven to sort of mask the fact that if you want all the speakers going at once, it can't quite hit the spec that they gave you. But again, then the large capacitors that really help, those brief transients where you all of a sudden really need the power to make it sound right. We talked a little bit earlier about the output devices that are connected to these great big heat sinks to get rid of the heat that inevitably gets built up as you're listening. So all these kinds of things are designed to help us do what we see as one really critical mission, and that's enable that Class A operating range to go up as high as we can, because this is the way that you reduce the odd order harmonic distortion that we've probably all listened to some really inexpensive equipment at one point or another. And over time, especially, it starts to be a little bit grating to us. It doesn't sound smooth and clean and effortless and those kinds of adjectives. So where some people might think that you buy a big amplifier so you can play really loud, we say, no, that's one of the benefits, to be able to really have that, loud dynamic contrast when you want it. But even at normal listening level, you should be getting an increased sense of clarity and transparency that you wouldn't be getting if you didn't have a powerful amplifier hooked up. So, more musical enjoyment, whether you're loud or soft. So, maybe this is a good point just to stop. And I know you guys have questions streaming in that I can't see right now because I'm looking at the presentation. Michael, anything that you want to fire away?
We have lots of questions in here, Joe. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So it says on your website, hand matched. So in my review, I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. Hand matched MOSFETs for driver stage. Hand matched. Are these hand matched by John Curl himself? Or what? Yeah.
So in the outputs, I think what we're talking about there is MOSFETs versus other types of output devices. We're convinced that in the output stage, what we really want are not just MOSFET output devices, but very specific ones. Richard actually made a buy and got a huge quantity of MOSFET output devices when he realized that one of his favorites, one of he and John Curl's favorites, were going away. They were going off the market, okay? So, Richard just bought an enormous amount of these very specific output devices. And yeah, we're very carefully selecting what output devices go where in this thing. So yeah, I think that's what you were referring to.
Very
Now,
cool.
John Curl himself doesn't do it in the building, of course, but yeah.
Oh, I thought he touched every single one that We have what else we got, Chana?
From Woody Sound Up, the new Classic 200 integrated uses D class. Any thoughts of making a 5 to 7 channel D class amplifier, or keeping that to the NC to the new Classic 200?
No, we're really excited. So again, just to kind of quickly review this, Class D is the most efficient way to build an amplifier. If in a pure Class A tube amplifier, a lot of heat would get generated. In a Class D amplifier, it runs very cool. It's the most efficient way to build an amplifier. So 15, 20 years ago, almost none of our competitors were using Class D because it just didn't sound good back then. But we're finding some really nice modules now, specifically Pascal modules, and I'm blanking on the other one, but it'll come to me in a second. But yeah, we are having a lot of fun selling the new Classic 200 because it's $11.99 retail for literally a 1U high, basically a 1.5-inch, 2-inch high amplifier that just sounds great. It doesn't take up much room. So we definitely have had some conversations about, do we want to start looking at 5 and 7 channel options with Class D amplifiers? That's a great question.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Another one. This one's from Reginald Boyd. How do your amps compensate for switching distortion?
Yeah. So, Reginald, one of the things we're trying to do specifically with the Halo series that we've talked about so far is we're trying to come up as high as we can with Class A sound, so that the way that we bias, and I don't want to get too deep and maybe lose some of the less technical people, but the way that we bias the amplifiers, you can get to really pretty loud levels in pure Class A. So now when we move into Class B, it's kind of by definition with a signal that's louder, and you tend just not to be so aware of the distortion. I'm just looking at the summary thus far. How did I mess that up? No, it's accurate. I was looking at the summary thus far, and I thought I had misspelled it, but I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's kind of a longer discussion there, I suppose. But Reginald, if you want, or anybody on the call today, you can send us a question to sales@parasound.com. If we don't get to some of these questions, I know you guys have a lot of them. We'll be happy to answer the question afterwards. So just if you guys want to just jot down, our email is sales@parasound.com, and we'll get you answers to some of these questions too. Next question.
Cool. I'm actually looking up the speaker they're talking about. Richard wants to know, could I drive a pair of Revel F328 BE speakers with a Parasound A21 Plus? And I'm looking at the speakers now. 328 BE. Looks like they're $8,000 a pair. I don't know.
Dang.
I could give you
8,000 each.
8,000 each. Okay. Well, I guess I would give you a couple of answers. It's one of the questions that we often get when people email us or call us up is, hey, is this amplifier a good match for that speaker?
Yeah, you're right.
And the reason, go ahead.
Here are the stats: impedance 8 ohms, power range 50 to 300 watts, and sensitivity 91 dB. There you go.
So thank you. That was Chana, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chana. So that's a very efficient speaker. It's an 8 ohm speaker. That's not a speaker that's going to present a really totally challenging load to us. So I would say absolutely, an A21 Plus would be a fine match, but you might want to look at that level. If you've got $16,000 invested in a pair of speakers, you might want to look at a JC5 would be a $6,000 investment instead of $3,000, but the JC5 is a better amp. The part that makes it so hard to answer this question that lots of customers want to ask is, even if you tell us how large your room is, and even if you tell us, I like to listen just occasionally loud, more, all those kinds of things, until you hook the whole thing up, nobody really knows if
yeah.
the amplifier, and listen to it, nobody really knows if at your preferred volume level with this pair of speakers, if it's really the right match. I mean, we make better and better equipment because our best equipment can do things that our least expensive can't, right? So it sounds like an A21 Plus would be a fine match for those speakers, but you might want to check out certainly also a JC5. Next one.
Next one. All right. Does Parasound have a house sound they like to aim for?
That's a great question, actually, because some manufacturers definitely do. They try to achieve a certain type of sound characteristic, whether that's a very smooth high end or a very rich bass or whatever it is. So the amplifiers are sort of tuned to make that level of performance. The way we think about it is that we'll get the most customer satisfaction, and from a selfish perspective, the most sales for us if we don't do that. What we want to do is try to give you the most linear sound that we can possibly give you, because that way we feel we can match up to the widest range of different speakers. Because as you guys well know, some speakers, you look at electrostatics, maybe like the quads, and Magnapan isn't exactly an electrostatic, but it's a panel speaker. Those typically won't be as rich in the bass as some other vendors that are really, taking a lot of the engineering dollars and putting it into large woofers and really well-built woofers and that sort of thing. What we want to do is give an amplifier that is as linear in sound quality as we possibly can, so that all parts of the musical spectrum are well served. We strive not to achieve a specific house sound of our amplifiers, but instead to be, the same kind of as accurate as we can build it. That's the words I'm seeking. Yeah.
So you're going for like a neutral sound, so it'll sound better on everything, right?
Yes. Now, having said that, you might have a very particular speaker with a very particular sound and realize that one of our competitors is even better for your speaker because of the way they've tried to sort of steer how their amps sound. Well, that's okay. We don't mind losing occasionally, as long as we don't lose too often. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Let's see. Okay. There's a question about cables. What XLR cables do you recommend?
Yeah. So in a sense, that's two questions really, because obviously there is the the balanced connector. Let me just sort of quickly end show here and see if I can just back up to a slide of, the back panel of an amplifier. Well, here, no, I'm sorry.
A31.
Yeah.
The back panel.
Yeah. Is that?
All right.
No, that's moving ahead. Well, here, that's all right. Let's, I'll go back. What we'll do is we'll just move forward, but I'll show you in a moment so we can just talk about the differences between, let's go from current slide. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, so we'll start moving forward, but in just a few slides, I'll be showing you the back panels, and we'll talk about the differences between a balanced connector and a standard RCA kind of connector. So your first question, or first part of that question in a sense, is do we recommend balanced cables versus a standard RCA? And our answer is absolutely, because balanced cables tend to give you a quieter background, and they also tend to have a little bit more output than the RCA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should we move forward a little bit? Should I?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
keep going.
All right. So we'll get more questions as we go. So let's just talk a little bit about upgrading. One point I want to make about upgrading your home theater that I think is really worth thinking about. Sometimes people will just sort of agonize about, should I spend, the extra $500 for this speaker or that amplifier or whatever it is. Remember that if you treat yourself to a delicious meal at the local fish house or, a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, hey, by this evening, that meal's gone. If you're building a home theater and you want to spring, an extra $300 for the leather chairs instead of the other ones, it's pretty good odds that 20 years from now, you'll still be relaxing in those leather chairs. So, in a home theater, there is something that's a little different going on. There is in some types of entertainment choices. You'll be enjoying it for decades, and every single day you can sit and enjoy it. And this is where I wanted to get to that one specific slide I told you about, where we talk about if you're going to do some sonic upgrade to your system, you want it to be apparent. You don't want to. I saw maybe 30 years ago, I was in a shop where these guys were doing a turntable demo, and they were trying to coach me to listen for certain things. As the rep and I left, I said, did one of those sound better to you? And he said, well, they definitely sounded a little different from each other, but I'm not sure that the one was better than the other. Well, if you're going to upgrade and spend more money, that's not what you want. You want to spend that money and say, oh yeah, I'm experiencing exactly what I wanted. So I wanted to talk about 3 things that I think can really be, huge positives. One is for all of you listeners out there today, if you have a single sub in your system, you really want to consider the benefits of twin subs, because there are things, just because of the physics. I worked for Velodyne for 7 years, okay? Just because of the physics of how bass propagates in a room, there are going to be areas where the bass seems much louder than in other areas where it may almost seem to have disappeared. If you've got twin subwoofers, on the other hand, you're going a long way towards smoothing out those, sort of, again, dips or exaggerated areas, right? You can prove this to yourself in seconds. Start talking and back up into the corner of your room while you're continuing to talk. You'll hear your voice get suddenly very bassy when you're standing in the corner, okay? So, one recommendation I have that doesn't have to be huge money, check out a second subwoofer for your system. Second thing is, just in the 25 years that I've been working for various, repping and manufacturing in a home theater era, it's insane how good of a picture you can get. This is a $3,000 Sony projector. I don't have a particular affiliation with Sony, but for the guys who are wondering about their next upgrade and you've got a nice looking flat panel TV, think about what, a $3,000 projector and let's say $1,000 worth of a nice screen from Draper or Stewart or Daylight. That can be, now all of a sudden you can have a big, clear, color-rich picture that's twice the size of whatever was your practical, 60, 65, whatever you had before. That's an upgrade you're going to notice right away. And a third one, an old friend of mine used to say, if you've spent more than $2,000 on your speakers and you haven't looked at treating the acoustics of your room, you're throwing your money away. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but, really simple acoustical treatments for that matter, just adding some drapes, a nice, thick, heavy drape in a room can tame it down. If it's really kind of echoey and ringy when you're in your room, you don't necessarily have to buy these various, dedicated room treatment type options, a plush couch and a like I say, drapes, those sorts of things. But again, an investment of maybe $300, $400, $500 in some room treatments if you've got room issues. In fact, that's another thing I should make sure I get to you guys. My friend Paul DiComo, who was with Polk Audio and Definitive for years and who hired me twice, he did a YouTube video that's up close to 20,000 views now of just the really simple things he did in his room that really upgraded the sound.
Nice. Would like a big fluffy cat, would that work? Like yeah, I mean, like Chana, don't you have like a cat?
I got a dog.
Okay, so like a big furry animal, that wouldn't work.
When you walk by, the sound gets better, right?
That'll work great. You got to get him to sit though in the one spot during the whole performance. Okay. Yeah,
that's the tough part.
That's maybe a big fluffy rug and thick curtains. Those types of things would be.
And Joe, I know. Yeah, you said twin subs. Michael only believes in having full,
quads. He's got to have quads.
I only have 2 subwoofers.
Wait, and
there's have 4 drivers.
When you were saying just get a, if you want an inexpensive upgrade, just get a second sub. I'm like, not if you're Michael. That's not a cheap upgrade.
Well, the guys at Harman actually did a fascinating experiment, I guess you'd call it. Probably this is now 15 or so years ago, but they did an experiment sort of in virtual reality where they added more and more, and they wound up with, like 4,000 subwoofers in a room. Okay. So they went way beyond what anybody would ever do. But what they found was 1 subwoofer, good. 2 subwoofers, that's the biggest leap you can make. 4 subwoofers, probably 1 in each corner, still a significant leap again. But now if you started going actually to 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever, there are certain ways in which the sound starts getting worse. There are some ways in which
against each other, right?
That's right. You get these interaction effects. So, twin subwoofers, or if possible, 4 is really an awesome way to go. But another good way to go
has probably has 20. Oh man.
Another great way to go though is add a power amp. And I know that each of the 3 of you guys have already experimented with this in significant, you've done this quite a little bit.
Yeah.
The problem isn't with any one of the home theater manufacturer brands. I love all those guys. I have friends that work for each of those guys. All home theater receivers are great. They can do an incredible amount for you, but you don't have the physical room inside to do the things that we're going to do. And that's what we want to look at in these next couple of slides as to why, because people will tend to ask, well, why do I want to add a power amp? My home theater receiver has 7 amplifiers in it. What would be the point of that? So let's just kind of take a little look now. This is a picture I was able to download from the internet from one of the very well-known brands, a very high-quality brand. I've owned this brand in the past. In fact, I own a piece of it now. So the problem is when you look at all the things they're doing in a home theater receiver, to get the steering right so that, again, the horses are going from left to right across the sounds. You want to hear the horses do exactly that. The airplane's going over your head. You want it to not only see on the screen that it's going over your head, you want to hear it that way, right? All of the digital engineering that it takes to get that done, we don't have. These guys do. But what we've got is this kind of thing, this ability to use the components that we know how to bundle together to make an awesome sounding. In this case, this is the A21 Plus, the 2-channel power amp. And there's no way, as you just look at these 2 pictures, there's no way you can take all of this technology that we do and stuff it into this box. It won't work that way, So using what I call every upscale home theater receiver's secret weapon, because certainly some of the budget home theaters out there don't have pre-outs, right? Mm-hmm. But all the upscale home theater receivers have the secret weapon of these preamp outs that make adding an external amplifier a piece of cake. In this case, this is obviously a very fully featured Yamaha. It's the A3080. It actually has both balanced connections for your front, left, and right amplifier channels. And then, the remainder of the channels have RCA connections. Mm-hmm. So this is now back to that last question that we didn't quite fully answer. So a balanced connector is what you always find in pro audio. You go to see your favorite band in concert, all that stuff is cabled up with balanced connectors because they want to keep the noise floor as low as they can, the performance as high as they can. But really good RCA connectors are quite good too. So, if you don't have balanced connectors, that's not the end of the world. Good RCA connectors work well. I am going to dodge, though, kind of the second part of that question. I know for much of my lifetime, because I had repped AudioQuest in the past, and again, I have a number of AudioQuest friends still in that building, I tend to recommend AudioQuest, but there are many good brands of cabling out there, and I think you want to work with your local dealer, or, whether it's Music Direct or Audio Advisor or whichever one of the, internet guys you're dealing with, get their recommendations and what they think would be the right cables for you. But yeah, so adding this kind of big power, this is that JC5 amplifier that we talked about a little bit earlier. Adding this kind of power to a Yamaha, Sony, Denon, Marantz, whatever is your favorite receiver or pre-pro of choice, this is a fabulous way to get it done. And I want to show you that we have had in the past a P7, this was our, kind of preamp processor. And we wanted it for all the right reasons. Home theater just keeps getting more and more popular, but we don't really have the digital engineering expertise to pull this off where these guys do. So that's where I'm thinking that, here you get the best of both worlds. You're working with a company like a Yamaha that has hundreds of engineers who have expertise in the digital world because they make so many different types of products. And you pair that up with what we're really good at, and now all of a sudden you've got a fabulous combination. This is our A51. This is our finest of our multi-channel amplifiers that are designed for home theater.
I have that one.
Okay, perfect.
Super heavy. You got to be careful taking that thing out of the box, man. Like, for real.
If you're super weak, Chana, if you're not, you just grab it and go, baby.
It has handles. And I tried to lift it from the handles.
It's so heavy.
That was bad.
I think really what the handles are for is just to let you know this Joker's going to be heavy.
Yeah.
It's like a visual. Oh, wow, this is legit.
Maybe just move it in or out of a rack or something.
Yeah, that's a big part of why we put handles on there. I mean, it actually does help you get it into your rack, but we absolutely recommend on these bad boys that, you get your friend, your neighbor, your cousin, whomever to come over and give you a hand, because this literally has 5 amplifiers in it. You can see over here on the right, we've labeled the 5 amps, and this is, certainly one of the biggest toroids that we have in any of our amplifiers. But this is the kind of approach that, if you invest at that level, boy, you're going to hear it. Stereophile guide to home theater, radiated sweetness and light on music, thunder and lightning on the home theater effect stuff. And not all amplifiers can cover both ends of that sonic spectrum. So
you have to have my quote on there, Joe.
Which one?
It makes my speakers sound more expensive.
Yes, I love that.
Add that to your slides.
I love that.
And
in fact, Phil asked me, did I want to add that quote? And I said, I don't know, how Joel feel about it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just joking.
You were talking about 8 ohm load earlier. On the A51. I have Martin Logan speakers where the mains are 6 ohm, the center is a 5 ohm, and the rears are 4 ohm. So, no. The center is a 4 ohm and the rears are 5 ohm. So it's all over the place. Yeah. And it's, it's just delivering, good, clean power to everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah, when you've got truly separate amplifiers all in one chassis, which is really what we've got in a sense, is a series of monoblock amplifiers. That kind of doesn't make any difference that you've got these mismatched impedance curves. Our amps can handle it. And by the way, if the $5,000 price tag scares you off, a lot of people will invest in a left, center, and right speaker that are all very high quality, and then maybe they'll do in ceilings or in walls or something that are not as costly. To kind of hide those. Well, we sell a ton of these A31s every year because this is exactly the same amp as the A51. It's just the 3-channel version of it. So, now you're much more affordably, approaching, get that left, center, right. So you've got that incredible front sound stage, and, let the special effects and so forth all be taken care of by your home theater receiver.
Yeah.
So, and then this one is really a very popular seller for us too, because now you're into a price range that, still more people are comfortable with, with this A52 that, again, Michael, I was getting a big kick out of your review of it that I saw on YouTube this morning. For $3,000, it's not the least expensive thing you could buy, but this is really a good amp for $3,000. It's, it'll do 180 watts into the 8 ohm load. And of course, substantially more. You're up around 250 or so into a 4 ohm load. It's stable as heck. It's going to last you probably for decades.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I see with Parasound is that just the build quality is ridiculous. I mean, it's almost like overbuilt. It really is. It's like you wonder, is Parasound going to run themselves out of business because these things are lasting too long? But I think that's a testimony to just the quality that you put inside your amplifiers and your products.
Yeah, like I said in that one slide earlier, to me, benefits 2 and 3 of a better amplifier are the sonic benefits. The first benefit is you should get something that's built well. And
yeah, I mean, it's just gonna last a long time. On Monday, we had a question where someone was trying to figure out which processor they wanted to go with, and they wanted to go with either an RCAM or an NAD, and they were, and even, what was it, Michael? Was it the Emotiva or the Monolith processor? And they were a little bit afraid of is it buggy and this and that. And so I was like, do you have any amplifiers? And they said no. I was like, look into some quality amplifiers, get that sorted, because you could just get a fairly inexpensive, AV receiver with pre-outs right now, and then just swap that out to a pre-pro in like 3-4 years, but get some amplification, because I know that it's just going to last a long time. And with these Parasound products, you're going to get something that lasts a good while. And BL Swagger, I have both the A51 and A52 Plus. He had a question about using the A52 Plus for height channels, and if that's overkill. That's exactly how I'm using them. So I've got with the crazy different ohm loads, I have around 250 to 300 watts going in the ear level, and then the 180 watts going into the high channels. So that's how that's how my setup is with the 2 Parasound amplifiers. I have a 9-channel system.
Okay. Good.
I remember on my review, Joe,
Mhm.
Fresh Hater Jay said that his main complaint was that, he's spoiled now. You know what I mean? He had the clean power for the 5 channels with the A52 Plus, but then like what you can do with the height, you can't. Now you're spoiled.
They're feeling left out.
Yeah. What am I gonna have to do?
I got a big kick out of your Fresh Hater Jay, but where did you find that guy? Where did he come from?
I don't know. Inspired by the haters, I guess.
Yeah. But actually, the reason I put up this slide is just to say to people, hey, it is okay to mix and match. It's not like if you chose an A51 and then you wanted to expand to the other channels, like you have to add another A51. As long as it's well built and clean power, you can add whatever you want to add. So our Zone Master 4, this would give you 4 channels of, not quite the same level of power we've been talking about, but it's a very well-built, affordable amp for $1,000. It's capable of 150 watts into a 4-ohm load. And Phil was really urging me. Phil works for Parasound as well. Of course, he's our national sales manager, and he was saying, hey, for some of these people, they're trying to, they're bringing in now a new receiver to replace the one they had from 10 years ago, and now they've got Atmos channels and so forth. They may not have any rack space for a big amplifier, so something like a Zone Master 4, which we're going to start shipping just within the next couple of weeks. It replaces the 450 we had before. This is very powerful, and yet it's very rack space efficient. So being able to mix and match is, a good thing. And the same thing with this, we sell a ton of these 2250s every year. It's very affordable. This and the 2125, which is well under $1,000. You may want to just power your left and right speakers at this stage of the game.
Right.
So, mixing and matching whatever you want to mix and match to achieve your goals is kind of the thing. And I think is kind of a way to wrap it up as we start to head towards, let's finish your last questions and stuff. Just to remind everybody that, yes, we are a more expensive product compared to a lot of the things that are out there, but we're certainly not the most expensive, guys. This is a well-known competitor of ours that I priced out, what it would take to do a home theater with their pre-pro and great big power amp. And this is roughly an $18,000 combination. I think, taking a good quality AVR, let's say $1,500 or so, and adding to it, let's say, whichever of the Parasound amps that you wind up adding, I mean, you're somewhere between that, $4,500 and $7,000 range, but I don't think you're at a third of the quality, not even close. So, with that, just to throw a couple more software recommendations, probably many of you guys have enjoyed Fleetwood Mac's The Dance. If you haven't checked out Queen's Live at Wembley, this might be my single favorite concert Blu-ray. It is, the video quality is pretty cruddy because let's face it, was 1986 camera. Yeah. But oh my gosh, I never saw Queen, and I so regret that I didn't, because this is such a fun video to watch. So anyway, that's kind of the material I've got, but I bet we've got a bunch more questions we can handle.
Yeah. Let's get rid of the slideshow. Let's see.
So you want me to end show?
Yeah, go ahead and end show so you can see what's going on.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Steve. How many stages of Class A amplification per channel before the Class AB stage takes over? Yeah,
so this gets a little technical, Steve, and I apologize. It's what's really happening is that we're biasing the amp to go as to a high level of volume as we can in Class A, but at a certain point, the current draw and so forth is almost demanding that it moves to Class B. But it's not like there's kind of this it's not like falling off a cliff or something, it's different than that. So if you want more detail on this, again, why don't you send us a note at sales@parasound.com. We'll do our best to answer.
Nice. Sales at
Parasound.com.
You're gonna put that in the.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a banner up right now.
Because we could talk about just this question for the next 15 minutes, and I still wouldn't have adequately answered it. If you the more technical you get, the more you can get yourself in trouble. So
no, definitely.
Oh, good. Look at that. Yeah, sales@parasound.com.
Yeah. Here's a question from Adam. Any plans for 7 9 and 11 channel amp in a single chassis, or would that degrade performance?
Great question, Adam. I would say if we're going to do like a 7-channel amp, for example, and that's been talked about quite a bit within the building, but nothing's been decided just yet. But we're probably, number one, going to have to go Class D if you want it to all be in one chassis, because you saw, for example, in that A51, how packed that thing is. You do start to run into physical. I mean, obviously you can go 5 high or 6 higher, but you can wind up with a massive amplifier. And I think we'd kind of rather approach it, mixing and matching our different, take a 5-channel from us and a 3-channel and, that kind of thing. At least certainly as far as the Class AB amplifiers go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. AA has it says here 3-channel amp, please. We already know you have the A31 3-channel. Any plans for a, you have the A51, you have the A52 plus, so maybe an A32 plus that's a 3-channel, 180 watts, just pretty much just mimicking the 5-channel there, but just in a 3-channel form, lower the price a little bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, as I'm sure you guys know, there's kind of 3 stages of product development. The first is you kick around ideas. The second is you say, yeah, let's do this. And then the third is you really dig into the engineering stage and make it happen. We've absolutely kicked around the idea, and I'm a big proponent that we could use some, expand our more affordable multi-channel amplifier offerings. But right now, it's not actually products on the board that I could tell you, oh, we'll have that in 6 months or 12 months or whatever. But I think that's a real opening for us, because home theater keeps getting more and more popular, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And with the new Denon X6700H, they brought 13-channel processing down under $4,000. Right, it's coming in at $2,500, and if you want to run 13 channels, you get a 3-channel and you get 2 5-channels, and you've got 3 amplifiers, you've got your AV receiver, you got 13 channels. I mean, that would be awesome. Like if you had 2 A52 pluses, and maybe this, I'm just calling it the A32 plus, and you're set. You've got 180 watts on all your speakers. Let's say they're all 8 ohm speakers. And, you're good to go. You've got a well-balanced 13-channel Atmos DTSX setup.
That's it.
Yeah.
Next one. We still have time for some more questions. I can hang out as long as you want, but.
Yeah. I put this one up, but Joe will give you a link to the Jitsi, to the VIP video chat, and we can continue answering questions there. Is there a big difference between the A23 Plus and the 2250 V2?
Thank you, Chana. It's a very common question, and thank you, Cruisin'. The reason why it's such a common question is that those 2 amplifiers are very close in price point, right? One of them's $1,595, the other's $1,395, and the $1,595 one, the A23 Plus, is not doesn't have as much raw power as the 2250, but the A23 Plus is a Halo product, and so in terms of kind of the refined sound that you get from Halo, it is in fact a step up from what we can do with the new classic products. There's nothing wrong with the new classic 2250. We sell loads of them, but it really kind of is based on an amplifier design from a couple of decades ago that we've kept upgrading, whereas the A23 Plus is sort of a new thing. So if you can step up, the additional couple $100, I think you'd probably really enjoy an A23 Plus. Yeah.
Very good.
And Joe, you're gonna make me have to get a pre-pro, because you're telling me about the XLRs, and my AVR doesn't have that right now. Making me spend all kinds of money over here.
No, honestly, that's okay. Even
that's
though
okay.
No, it is. Even though XLRs do offer a certain performance benefit, but there are some really good single-ended cables out there in the marketplace from all kinds of manufacturers. So I wouldn't make the change just based on wanting to recable everything with XLRs. I wouldn't take that step just yet.
Well, I kind of want to, but it's all right.
Well, in that case, yeah.
I want to blame it on you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blame it on me then.
You know what's funny is when I started trying this out, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to keep this thing. This thing is too, I could hear a difference. Man,
See,
I didn't want to.
Joe
I didn't
told
want
me he
to.
didn't want to hear anything. Like
Yeah,
we're talking,
didn't.
he's like, man, I
Well,
can totally hear the
It'd
difference with this
be my
Parasound.
wallet would be happier. But you know what? You know what's funny is I also like the turn on sequence. Remember on the video I said like just to hear
Right.
that thing click on. I'm just so
Oh yeah,
that sold me. You hear like click, 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 click. Like,
Joe.
all right, I
Joe,
want it.
just wait till you get a second one. There's more clicks.
More
Click,
clicks.
click. I
Oh,
there's so
man.
many clicks, and sometimes my wife is messing around with the Logitech remote, and we have to turn everything off and then turn everything on again. I'm like, yes. We get to hear multiple click, 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 click. It clicks off, and then click, 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 click. It clicks on. Oh, it's great, great, very
Oh,
I
satisfying.
hope people know what we're talking about. You think they know what we're talking about?
The click when you get the turn on sequence and the amplifiers are switching themselves on.
Yeah.
By the way, the main reason that that's delayed is you're talking, of course, about a significant current rush, and especially if you're in an older home, you don't want to, kind of shut down your wall panel, your power, your electrical panel with a sudden onrush of current. So in our big amps like the JC 1 pluses, you can actually stagger it yourself. You can dial in how long you want.
Oh, like the timing of the delay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I think Empatogo has a question here.
Sure. Also, unless your electronics are all fully balanced differential.
Was that a question or comment?
Well,
yeah. I think it was a continuation, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that can get into a whole nother, that can be another 20-minute discussion itself. So do we have some more questions or?
Somebody's asking about Class A.
About a just Crenshaw, one Crenshaw, please ask about a just Class A amp build. That's another, thought that we've had is now that we have the JC1 Plus, should we take it even to another level and, make a pure Class A amplifier? But in terms of answering this question, one Crenshaw, will Parasound be building just a Class A amp around 200 watts? The answer to that, I would say, is not anytime soon because it would take up half your living room. Yeah, that's why we love this Class A/B approach, is we can take it, to really where you almost need to get into a big loud crescendo before you have to go to B. But then at that point, the signal is so much louder than any distortion component, you're not really aware of it. Because to get a pure Class A 200 watt amplifier, that's going to be a monster.
And costly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Here's one. How come no one builds a 4-channel amplifier? If I buy a 3-channel amplifier, I'd like 2 4-channel amps for their 11-channel setup.
Sure. Well, actually, we did have that one slide of a product that we're coming in with literally. So we, in the spring/summer, I guess, we sold our last of the Model 450s. But we have the new Model 4 coming in, the ZM4. It will literally be shipping that in the next week or two. It's a 4-channel amp, nominal 120 watts into 8 ohm load, 150 into a 4 ohm load. And it's really for exactly these kinds of applications where you've already got, kind of the main channels are taken care of. And now you need a 4-channel amp to back it up. So ZM4 should literally be shipping in another week or two.
Cool. What's the retail on that one?
Practically free. No, just kidding.
Hey, I'll take 3.
Yeah.
Youth man deal right there.
Yeah. No, it's at $9.95 is the retail price on the ZM4.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's an affordable product and very nice sounding too. And this is where, again, I was talking about, it's possible now to engineer a good sounding Class D amp, which, 20 years ago, nobody talked about a good sounding Class D amp. That didn't exist.
Right.
3. So Isaac Sykes 3, I have speakers that have a max power of 500 watts per channel, and I want the headroom. What do you have for me? Well, so I assume that's 500 watts per channel into an 8 ohm load. You never have to buy a power amp that sort of maxes out what the theoretical capability of your speaker is to have a good match between speaker and power amp, because if we're rating a specific amplifier, let's say at 250 watts per channel, that's the RMS power, but it can deliver peaks far in excess of 250. So, an amplifier that can, let's say a 2250, the peaks on that would be, literally probably around 700, 750 watts, the peak capability. So, Yeah. So again, Isaac, you can 500 gigawatts. Thank you, AA. You the man. Yeah, he's a big thinker.
That's right.
Well,
Go
awesome.
big or go home.
Awesome. So yeah, Joe, why don't you hang out and we will direct you over to the video chat, the VIP video chat. And if you guys are wondering about the VIP, direct you to the what's going on? What is going on?
I read about an article about that.
So if you want to be part of the video chat, make sure you grab your tickets at the HiFiSummit.com. They are still for sale, and it covers you for all 5 days of the show. We got a whole lot more coming. I believe we have a 2-hour break now between our next next speaker, Simon from OSD Black. That's 2 p.m. And the rest of us will be in the video chat until then. And big round of applause here. Joe Finn.
Joe Finn.
Round of applause for you three, Joe and Shauna and Michael. I'm so excited that you guys are doing this. I'm just so impressed by what you've been able to do. I can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Stick around, Joe.
Stick around, Joe, and we'll see you guys in just
Okay.
Now do I copy this and put it in a new link?
He just backed out.